Hello everybody, welcome to another video blog edition of the Drazen Report. I think that there's still some people, a few people, a tiny minority, but still a few who don't appreciate my use of the term Brandon and who think that, it's disloyal and all that to the United States and treasonous and all that. So I'll tell you what, I don't want to do treason. We don't do treason here. We're very patriotic Americans. I am going to wrap myself in this flag. I'm going to wrap myself in the flag for this show. It's my Let's Go Brandon flag. It's in the colors of the American flag. I'm going to wrap myself in this flag for this show. I still have a little tag here. Anyway, that's what we're going to do. Now, thank you for watching. I want to do a very little bit of housekeeping and then we'll move. This is going to be a big omnibus issue today. The housekeeping is, a lot of people have asked me, how can I help you? How can I donate? I'm new to this. I don't have a Patreon and I don't have any way to donate. And, this isn't my day job. I'm just doing this for fun so far. And I really appreciate folks that want to support me that way. I really do. I actually had more requests than more than I anticipated, just people trying to donate. For now, I don't need it. Keep your money. I really appreciate it. What you can do is, we can't assume that I'll always be on YouTube or I'll always have my blog, which is hosted on a platform. These, accounts that don't match the narrative, oftentimes they die of sudden adult death syndrome because evidently they're all vaccinated. And so we have to assume that at some point I may need another way to reach you. Okay, and I can't do that without your email address. The way you get me your email address, please, is you go to my blog and you click on any post on my blog, anyone, it doesn't matter. You scroll to the bottom and there is always at the bottom of each post, there is a little space where you can, enter your email address and click submit, and then I will get your email address. It will go to my blog mailing list, but which I'll be able to keep that mailing list if something happens to the blog, and I will have your email address that I can reach you in some other format if I go to Substack or whatever. So it's very important. I know, this is like this is kind of watching this YouTube channel and other YouTube channels is kind of like your TV time, your downtime, relaxed time. You just turn it on. You don't think like, okay, maybe I should give this guy my email, maybe I should do something, but I'm asking you to please proactively get me your email address because we can't assume that this medium will always be here for us, okay? All right, thank you. So basically, to get started with the substance, we're going to cover some about the Ukraine war and then some about the economy in the U.S. and the world, and where this downslope is going. Now, the first thing I want to say is I had a few nasty responses. Not again, 99% positive. A few nasty responses to my earlier video about the economy and my predictions. All I did was I gave the facts. Like, here are the economic indicators. The most recent economic indicators in the United States, and here's where it could go. The Federal Reserve needs to make a choice. Either they, crank up the interest rates, which leads to a shock deflation of asset prices, and a depression, or they capitulate and, they just give up on the tightening and it leads to hyperinflation. Now that's, one of two choices. I said I think it will be the latter. I don't know. What's your opinion, right? And some nasty people wrote me, hey, Drazen, why don't you just stick to the military analysis? Stop with economic. You don't know anything. I'm like, dude, I'm just telling you the facts from the newspapers and then letting you make up your own mind, structuring it in a way where you have a choice to say what you think is going to happen. So evidently there's a lot of people, that there's some people that come here and for their war porn. And, they expect that, okay, if it's a Drazen report, they're going to hear something about the Ukraine war and exclusively the Ukraine war. They don't care about, the economy or whatever. They figure they're set, they're okay, they're going to do just fine. They come here for their war porn. Well, I'm telling you, it's all connected. It is all connected, okay? And what's happened is the United States and its hegemonic bloc, okay, led by the United States, they have, at the worst possible time, initiated a sanctions war, an economic war on what they perceive to be their chief economic or their chief geopolitical rival. Okay, and it's not going well for them. It's going very poorly, and their timing was horrendous. And I would say Russia's timing was excellent because what's happened is, everything that was going to happen economically was going to happen anyway, but they have massively accelerated it through this energy inflation, in the oil price and gas in Europe. The oil price affects the United States more, but anyway, through this rapid inflation in energy prices, oil, coal, and gas, they have hugely accelerated inflation and pushed themselves off a cliff basically, and now they're out of runway. This Ponzi is coming down precisely at the moment that Russia is making its big geopolitical move to partially reverse the collapse of the USSR, and not saying that that's it's some that Putin's going to be taking back the USSR or something like that. But the fact is, Russia's on the way up, and the West chose absolutely the wrong timing, the wrong strategy, and it's just a disaster. It's turning out to be a complete disaster. I'm going to ditch the Brandon flag. I think I made my point. I love wrapping myself in this flag. It makes me feel so patriotic. I'm a patriot. Anyway, so what happened on Friday, this past Friday, and into Monday, was a really big shocker in the U.S. because the treasury prices now are cratering, yields are skyrocketing, and it's really hit the mortgage market hard. And mortgage 30-year mortgage rates for a high quality applicant, good credit score applicant with 10% down are now on the order of about 6.1% in the USA. Okay, that's up from 5.5, 5.6, literally just, at the middle of last week. I mean, literally like 5 days ago, it was 5.5, 5.6. Now it's 6.1. That is an insane rise. We've almost never seen anything like it. And what it does is completely shuts down the first time home buyer market in the United States. So there is literally the United States real estate market is just going into the deep freeze, where it's going to be, cash buyers and investors and, people looking to get out of one McMansion, move into another McMansion, things like that. But I mean, in terms of first time buyers, the market is locked up. Okay. And real estate is an enormous real estate, home contracting, home improvement, enormous part of the U.S. economy, much larger than most other countries. And literally this can't last, because if they keep, and they're talking about raising rates more, they're going to hike by another 0.75. They are going to bring everything down very quickly. And my position is that they will have to back out of that sooner rather than later, because literally they will send the economy into a deflationary asset price deflation in terms of housing and stocks, a deflationary shock. And it will literally be on the order of, something like approaching the Great Depression. I mean, it's going to be worse than 2008. It's lined up to be awful. But the thing is, again, my position is they will have to back down from that and kind of try to talk the way down and see if maybe, they can try to kind of deal with inflation instead of triggering the deflation. But they can't do that either, okay, because we're in a very highly inflationary environment, especially with now energy prices. And again, this is just the wrong time to be picking an economic war with Russia. What they've done is they were in a corner and they've backed themselves even deeper into the corner, and it's a total disaster. And it will affect all of us. I mean, unless you're sitting on a billion tons of gold or something, and you can just laugh at everybody. It's going to affect us, okay? And the fact is, this really impacts, what Russia is doing and how Russia is managing, okay? Because if we go into very hard deflation, at some point the energy price will come down, and that will affect Russia. Obviously, Russia's main exports are energy products and other commodities. Okay, so that will affect Russia. If, on the other hand, as I predict, right, and you can disagree with this, but if, on the other hand, as I predict, they will opt for, just give up. We're done raising rates. We're just gonna just go for default high inflation because we don't want to trigger a collapse in asset prices. If they go that route, then Russia is going to be just cleaning up the gigabucks and megabucks, and Russia will end up on top of everything, really. So this inflation versus deflation, which way will the Fed go, right? Are they just going to continue to try to fight inflation, or are they going to give up and allow for hyperinflation? That is the big question, and it directly impacts Russia, and it directly impacts the course of Russia's resurgence and the Ukraine war. Okay, so for folks that are not interested in economics and you just want your war porn, you got to understand it's all connected. It's all connected. Now, with that out of the way, I want to talk a little bit about the recent shelling of Donetsk City, where the Ukrainian forces in the region of Avdiivka, obviously quite some distance behind the front lines, but in the region of Avdiivka, north of Donetsk, they have in the last few days, yesterday in particular, there was massive shelling where they lobbed reportedly about 300 projectiles into the city. It's clear that they're not aiming at any real direct military targets. You don't send that many shells into a city of 950,000, 300 if you're just, trying to hit some convoy or something like that. That's ridiculous. So clearly, what it is a form of, it's a form of terror bombing. Now, we've seen, Russia hit a lot of targets in Kharkiv and really tear up that town. So obviously, there's other cities in this war that have been shelled and damaged. And Russia, of course, has been a part of that. But in Russia's case, for the most part, they're aiming at specific targets, and they usually do hit those specific targets. Here, it's completely different. I would guess, to justify it to themselves, they're probably aiming at the Donetsk Defense Ministry, Security Ministry, something like that. Or maybe some warehouse somewhere, military warehouse, whatever. But it's incredibly, their artillery is incredibly inaccurate, and they're firing at the limit of their range. They're firing really at the limit of their range. They're probably firing from about 25, 30 kilometers away, and it's incredibly inaccurate. And so what we're seeing is really most likely an attempt, a very desperate attempt, to bring to sort of deflect attention from the Russian advance, so that basically the Russian artillery and the Russian air assets are redeployed from the front lines, around the area of Izum, Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Lysychansk, and so forth, and sort of brought back to the Donetsk area to sort of protect Donetsk. I think that's the strategy, is that, considering they haven't done this before, this mass terror shelling of Donetsk City, and now they're doing it. I think most likely they're trying to draw the Russian artillery and air assets away from, the most productive front lines where the Russians are moving, and to Donetsk City. And it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And it's sad, and of course it'll never be reported in the MSM, or at most they'll say, the Donetsk people are bombing themselves or something like that, as they've done before. So as far as, everyone's asking, why can't the Russian Air Force deal with this? Well, the Russian Air Force was busy to the far north and northwest, right? They only have so many air assets, and they've been prioritizing them to where the front is moving. So we'll see how it goes. I want to talk about this big shift that's been happening with everyone's like, oh my God, it went from Russia's losing to whoa, Ukraine is outgunned. They're losing 100 plus guys a day. All these Ukrainian officials, even Zelensky, are now talking about how many guys they're losing dead per day, right? They're killed in action per day. And it's complete sea change from what we saw, even just a few weeks ago. And a lot of commentators have covered this. Let me tell you, here at the Drazen Report, I don't change. I don't shift. I make a correct prediction and I stick with it. People ask me, well, could we see your resume, Drazen? Because I want to know if you're credible. Look, I'm credible based on, what I say coming to pass, okay? That's the only marker that you need. I have said, if you go to my blog, I have repeatedly said from the very beginning, really, you go to my blog back to April and March and you'll see that I have consistently said that on the current track where the U.S. hegemonic bloc is attempting to use Ukraine to damage Russia at any and all costs to Ukraine, on that track, the Ukraine will be destroyed. It will be destroyed. And I said that in April and I said that in March. So listen to me. You don't follow these guys like Scott Ritter that's like, yeah, Russia's doing great. Russia's doing great. Oh my God, they're getting HIMARS from Uncle Sam. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. It's like these people, they're just bouncing around. They're bouncing around. And then there's this guy, David Pine, he's not particularly famous, but he writes for the National Interest, which is a serious U.S. kind of foreign policy realist online publication. I think they used to have a print magazine, but I think they're all online now. And, I kind of follow this guy. I've interacted with him a little bit. And he was saying Putin is doing so badly in the Ukraine. He's most likely gonna have to use nuclear weapons. The way it's going, he's gonna have to use nuclear weapons. It's the only way Russia can win. He's gonna turn to nukes, or at least threaten nukes. And then I get an email update from his Substack, like in the last week. All of a sudden, he's going on Sputnik TV and talking about how the West now is so desperate that they're in these secret talks, as reported by CNN, to figure out how they can please Russia, or what they can give, what part of Ukraine they can give to Russia to make Russia go away. So all of a sudden, he's in this, he's talking about, well, Russia's doing so well and now they're so desperate they basically are looking for a way to surrender. Like a couple of weeks ago, he was talking, about nuclear weapons and Russia's going to have to use nuclear weapons. These people are bouncing all over the place. I am one of the few consistent ones. I have told you from the beginning, on the current track, with the West using Ukraine as a tool to try to damage Russia, the Ukraine will be destroyed. Okay, and we have seen a very sharp shift among the top propagandists in the Ukraine. If you've heard of Arestovich, this is a guy, he's a very intelligent guy, but he's their number one. He's basically their Goebbels. He's sort of their, he has a quasi-official advisory position. He's on TV all the time. He's basically their number one propagandist. And he was saying, okay, Russia is going to get thrown out of Ukraine in a couple weeks. Then it was Russia's going to get thrown out in a couple months. Then it's like the war is going to last 1-2 years. Now he's talking about, wow, well, you know what? Basically Russia, there's a chance Russia's going to take over all of Ukraine and they're going to incorporate the Ukrainian army and go fight Europe with, using the Ukrainian army. This is their number one propaganda guy. So, he has shifted. Okay. I have not. What's very interesting, what you say, people are, you might think, well, this is impossible. It'll never happen. Look, we've seen it. We've seen it historically. Okay. Look what happened to Romania or Bulgaria. Let's focus on Romania, because Romania was a partner in the German coalition against Russia during World War II. They lost, a couple of 100,000 dead and missing on the South Russian steppes and Ukrainian steppes. And, then basically when they saw that the war was being lost, what do? They switch sides. They flip their government, switch their government, and they switch sides. And all of a sudden, the new Romanian army was fighting Germany. Okay, Bulgaria did the same thing, although Bulgaria didn't fight Russia directly. They were more fighting, against the Yugoslav partisans. But anyway, we've seen it. We've seen it in history. Things can flip on a dime. On a dime. I mean, it's, and so, hypothetically, at least conceivably, yeah, we can see that, the government in Kiev will collapse or be replaced by its own people, potentially by its own military, and then they will, link up with Russia and just, I mean, it is possible, folks. We have seen it before. We have seen it. Keep in mind, most people just want a paycheck, okay? And most people ultimately don't really care whose propaganda they're listening to, ultimately, okay? And so, very interesting. We'll see what happens. Don't want to sound like Trump, but we'll see what happens. Now, keep in mind, I think that, for us to see something like that, where Ukraine just flips completely, it's going to take more than a total economic collapse in the West. I think there needs to be some additional exogenous shock. And what I see, how I see it, is the corona coming back. And I've talked about this before briefly on this channel. I've written about it on my blog. I urge you to check it out on my blog. I write about it in depth. I am not, for people who misunderstand, I'm not talking about them bringing back the lockdowns and the fear mongering just so they can win another election. I am actually talking about the corona coming back. And I think that it's a high probability that it will happen. I'm not speculating as to the time, but I think that will be the real exogenous shock that just puts us completely over the edge, especially in the West. And the big edifice of bullshit is going to come down. That's my prediction. Read more about it on my blog, the last entry on my blog. I appreciate everyone watching. Please keep in mind, again, you cannot assume that your favorite channels are going to be here all the time. We don't know when someone's going to get shut down, okay? So I need your email so conceivably I can contact you in another medium, or else at least send you an email saying, hey, I'm on Rumble, here's my Rumble link, okay? Because I might disappear one of these days from YouTube, right? We don't know what's going to happen. So please go on my blog, scroll down, get me your email address. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. I'll see you again soon.